Yo, what's up, peeps? It's Masterwire, and we're back. It's been a little while. I've been working on the game and whatnot, but there's been some pretty big news, and we got to slow it down. We got to talk about it a little bit. So, as an aspiring indie developer myself, I've been looking closely at the release of Crimson Desert, the points of contention, the love and hate people have for people that love and hate the game, the love and hate for the game itself, and opinions of people like Asmongold and others and other gamers on YouTube and stuff. And with this video, I really want to talk about the negatives. I want to, get on everybody's nerves a little bit. And I think I would pin it down to the foundational code that supports the game's systems. This isn't a game that was designed in a way for one or two systems to support the entire thing. It's not a rule-based ARPG that builds its fun on not being able to anticipate the player's solutions to problems, and they never said it was going to be. And sure, there's some of that in the game still, but instead it's built on multiple systems. For example, the contrary to Crimson Desert's Interact system is Skyrim's. In Skyrim, you can pick up items, and I don't need to tell you how to do that. There will never be an item you don't know how to pick up or interact with. That isn't an accident. The developers made a solid decision from the beginning that items should be general. In Skyrim, or Minecraft for lack of a better example, I can tell that there's no difference in code between a ring, a sword, or anything else until it's been resolved after you pick it up. Even levers are just items that support the same interact button, but can't be picked up. Imagine a simple gate, where an item can dictate for itself what happens when a player presses the F key, and all items in a game designed for gamers would have authority over what happens only after receiving an input from the player's intent, and wouldn't force the player to be the one who chooses a button specific for that item's action. Because put simply, how am I supposed to know? Games aren't real life. There's a million ways to design a lever, a million ways to design a door, and other things. So it's impossible for me, the player, to know the intent of the designer. Instead, the designer should assume the intent of the player and design for that. That's the main point of contention in recent large games. Intent. Player's intent. That should be the main thing on every developer's mind through every point of the foundational core development cycle. If a player wants to do an action, what input would they try first? I think if a player wants to do a spin attack, in my game for example, they would try holding down the normal attack button, but for longer than usual, then release. If they do this action and there's no spin attack, they would immediately assume that the spin attack is on another button. Can you see the issue that begins to mount though? Two buttons are created for an action that could have been solved with one, and the first action that the player tried was the most natural one. Then if I have a bow as a weapon, what would I do then? Make it so I press a secondary charge/spin button I created just before in order to draw back the string, and then press another attack button in order to release? We begin to develop tons of special conditions for simple items, and it begins to discourage variety in the development cycle. So what is the player's intent? If you ask yourself that question and end up drawing a blank, then either your systems are too varied and specific to anticipate the way a player would want to interact with them, or you haven't played enough games in that genre you were developing in order to have a solid opinion on what inputs would cause the least amount of friction in your gameplay scenario. And that's all inputs are at the end of the day, is friction. If you ask any gamer, any real gamer, what the ultimate game would be for an ARPG, if there were no restrictions of technology and anything could be achieved, there's only one real answer. We already know what it is. Anyone sensible who has a marginal amount of gamer credit would say the same thing. Sword Art Online. A game like that could be played with only our minds, our intent directly fed into the systems like combat, interactions, and movement. I'm just joking around, but can you imagine the amount of clunkiness born from mismatch animation timing that we would be dealing with completely disappearing? And the reason I'm bringing this up is to highlight that we're going in the complete opposite direction. And I'm not saying we need nerve gear or a way to travel inside the game. AAA hasn't even figured out how to properly respect the player's hands yet, so lay off the mind. But why are we adding more inputs instead of optimizing? It's a known practice to base inputs on contextual situations so that one interact key can mean whatever you need it to mean in the right moments. This isn't advanced tech. It's not even supposed to be new. It's not even anything. It's just bare minimum. It's the way we design all things like cars, tech, phones, TV. UI for all screens in general has been optimized down only needing a single finger touch. People in general in all fields of technology know this and lead with it in development of anything, especially when another person needs to interface with it. The only reason this mindset is missing from AAA games, the one medium where you need to interact with it in order to even experience it in the first place, is because the developers simply don't care. So, what do we do? support indie devs like myself who are trying to take things in the right direction.